So we'll now continue trying to generate some traffic with our client program. And so if I look at the README, there's a lot of explanation here how one can generate traffic using this client. And specifically, I'm looking to replay PCAP files and to replay them with this option row. So the row option, which is kind of duplicated in this tool because it supports row input files, which are encoded in particular format. That's not what I'm looking for. But I also accept this option to use row connections or row sockets to replay data exactly as it is without changing anything about it. And so that's what I'm looking for. And so I'm going to run this tool with that option. And the input option that I'm using is trace, meaning that it will take input from a PCAP trace. And I actually looked up the IP address of the server, but when I specify this in Due, I'm going to specify a variable IP address so that whenever I swap in and whatever IP address I get, the code will work. And I'm using sudo here because row sockets require sudo. They won't work otherwise. And so I can start the program. It's kind of hard to tell whether it's working or not. There is no particular, output. I can see that it did something and it exited. I can't really tell what it did. So what I'm going to do is run a TCP dump program here on the same node to see what's going on. And so to run TCP dump, I actually have to look up which interface to run on. And so ETH2 is this interface that has an experimental IP address starting with 10. And so I'm going to do TCP dump on that interface to just see which traffic comes out and if that's the traffic I was expecting to see. So I'm expecting to see several DNS queries go out. And so here they are. I can see that they are going out to my server node, and they are having the IP addresses that are, seemingly very random. These are addresses that are captured in that test PCAP trace. So now I have my building blocks. I cannot see any replies though. And the reason why I cannot see any replies is that my topology looks like this. So all the routing in this topology, actually I'm not having multiple clients. Right now I just have one client and a DNS server. But they just have one link and they just know about routing to each other. So any replies would be going to this IP address that does not exist in my topology, and they just won't be produced. The operating system will not produce them because it doesn't know how to route to that address. So now what I have to do is I have to modify my topology. I have to go back and somehow fool this node to think that it's possible to return traffic on this link so that I can have the traffic at least exiting this machine and going somewhere. It doesn't have to go all the way to the client. I can drop it halfway, but I have to have it exiting this machine. So this machine has to believe that it actually has a route to all these random addresses. And remember, I want to replay real traffic traces, so I don't know which addresses will be there. So luckily, this code that I'm using to replay DNS traffic has a scenario that deals with that. So if I look at the row MD file, it tells me that if I want to use row sockets to send traffic, I need to create a topology that looks like this. So it's similar to my topology, but it has a router in between. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fool my server to believe that this router is a default router to any address that I want to route to. And then this router will drop the traffic. So that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to just change my topology to look like this. And I'm going to keep one client, that's fine. But I'm going to say, let's check if I got logged out. I have. So I'm going to log in again. And I'm going to say there's a link between the router and the server. And then there's a LAN between the client and the router. So that's my only change. And then I save it and I export the NS file. And then I'm going to take that NS file and modify the experiment that I have in the terminal.